This video grew out of a recent Bible study we've been doing at church. For the last few months we've been going through the book of Revelation verse by verse. And as we looked at chapter 14, I was gripped by verse 3. I had so many thoughts. But these thoughts would have distracted from the entire study in context, and it would go well over the hour. And so as a result, I thought that while we didn't have time to discuss this, these thoughts were important enough for a video. And so while verse 3 is the main thought, it's best to look at it in context. Revelation 14 verses 1 to 4 says these words. Then I looked, and behold, a Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang as it were a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. Now, there are 6 different thoughts I want to look at in this video. And the first is when worship is personal. Verse 3 speaks of a group that sang a song that, quote, no one could learn except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. End quote. This wasn't a common tune accessible to every voice. It was unique. It was intimate. It was forged in the fire of their trials and sealed by their overcoming faith. It was a song only they could sing because only they had lived what it meant. Some songs are personal. They come from a depth of experience and connection that makes them sacred. I remember when I started dating my wife, and I discovered that her favorite worship song was El Shaddai by Amy Grant. I liked the song too, and trying to be romantic, I said, maybe this could be our song. But her facial expression changed, and I quickly realized that this song wasn't for sharing. It was reserved for her and her Lord. That was their song, born of moments they shared before I ever came into the picture. There's a reverence in that. Not everything is for public consumption. There is something sacred about a song that belongs to you and God alone. My second thought is, why we still need new songs. Now, new could mean a few things. A new song could be a song you've never heard before, but hearing it for the first time. It's good to learn new songs. I get weary whenever I visit a church to preach, and all the songs are old. Now, granted, some are very powerful and rich in theology, but there are also some excellent songs written in recent years. Singing only songs of even the recent past can trap the church in a kind of time bubble, where unconsciously the best days are the days gone by, and there's a disconnect with the modern generation we're called to reach. New songs help freshen things up and connects us to the current generation, the next generation that must hear about God's goodness through a sound that speaks their language. But in our text, a new song is more than a song you haven't heard before. It speaks of a fresh encounter with God. It's a new testimony, experienced by the believer that rises from the soul in response to something God has just done. It's a kind of worship that comes when God shows himself in a way you have never known him before. Psalms 98 verse 1 says, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm has gained him the victory." The sad thing about some older Christians is that after God has given them their basic desires, a spouse, a house, children, a career, they act as if there is nothing more God can do for them now that they can't do for themselves. As a result, they have no new testimonies of God moving in their lives. Some can't even recall the last time God did something new, and so they have no new song. But what do I mean by new songs? Do I mean that after every new testimony, you must write a song to sing? Not necessarily, but you could. It may not be a song you'd sing in church. It may not even rhyme. And you might not have a singing voice, but you can sing it to your Heavenly Father in the privacy of your own home. But a new song can also mean singing an old song with fresh revelation. Don Moen wrote a classic in 1986 called Jehovah Jireh. Many have sung it over the years. But what if you have never experienced God moving in your life financially? What if you only knew the song in theory? Then one day, in a tight economic squeeze, when things were desperate and you didn't know how you were going to make it, God moved supernaturally. Money mysteriously showed up in your account. Someone slipped an envelope full of cash under your door, and it was the exact amount you needed. Or that crushing debt out of nowhere was cancelled. Now you've moved from theory to experience, and that song is new because you have lived it. Now you can truly sing Jehovah Jireh, my provider. David said in Psalm 40 and verse 3, He has put a new song in my mouth. Praise to our God. Many will see it in fear and will trust in the Lord. While we sing the new song to God alone, others hear it. We aren't singing it to them, but in praising God, the song declares His goodness to others, causing them to fear. This isn't a terrifying fear that paralyzes, but a reverent awe that recognizes the greatness, majesty, and holiness of God. And that fear leads to faith. Faith in His power to move in their situations too. This is why we must sing new songs. My third thought is the sacrifices of worship. The 144,000 were Christians who endured spiritually during the tribulation period. This was a period of time that Jesus described as, quote, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor shall ever be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. Matthew 24:21-22. It is a brutal time where the Antichrist will establish himself as an authoritarian global dictator who oppresses the saints. And if that wasn't bad enough, it will be a time where God's judgment will be poured out as never before in human history. And yet, despite the difficulties, they endured in their faith and worshiped God. Some can only worship when things are good. They got married, got a better job, got into some money, graduated from university. But should the situation change from a time of plenty to a time of want, they couldn't even lift a hand during worship at church, if they managed to come at all. While a good singing voice is nice, what makes worship powerful is the level of sacrifice in it. That is why the writer of Hebrews, speaking to a discouraging church, said, Therefore, let us offer through Jesus a continual sacrifice of praise to God. Hebrews 13, verse 15. My fourth thought was the exclusivity of worship. Many modern Christians love the happy, clappy, uplifting and entertainment worship songs, and in this consumer culture, many churches are content to keep this type of playlist, as these kind of songs are everyone can sing, but some songs are born in the private places of pain and trials. Revelation 14:3 says, and no one could learn that song except the 144,000. These men overcame trials no one else did, and as a result had an experience no one else could appreciate. While this song was exclusive to them, there is a type of exclusive worship for Christians who have gone through things. Sure, there is no one banned from learning these words, but only those who have gone through the fire can truly connect with God through them. It Is Well With My Soul, written by Horatio Spafford in 1873, was a song birthed out of tragedy. After losing his fortune in the Great Chicago Fire, Spafford planned a trip to Europe for his family to recover from the stress. At the last moment, he was delayed by business and sent his wife and 4 daughters ahead. Tragically, their ship collided with another vessel and sank, claiming the lives of all his daughters. His wife survived and sent him a telegram that simply read, saved alone. As Spafford later sailed to meet his grieving wife, the captain of the ship informed him when they were passing over the approximate location where his daughters had drowned. In that sacred, sorrowful moment, Spafford was moved to write the words that became It Is Well With My Soul. The lyrics reflect a peace that surpasses understanding, rooted in faith despite crushing loss. One verse says, though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, lest this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless state, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. This hymn stands as one of the clearest examples of a song born in the private places of pain. It was a cry of trust between a broken man and his faithful God. Sure, people have sung it, but will it connect with God if you yourself haven't been there? It is easy to sing "It Is Well With My Soul" in good times, but what about the bad? Can we still sing and mean it? If we can, it is a sacrifice of worship, and it is worshiping in spirit and in truth. A popular worship song in recent times is "Blessed Be Your Name" by Matt and Beth Redman, which was written in part after the events of 9/11, where they perceived that there was not enough worship songs to face the struggles and griefs people were feeling. They wrote, quote, "Where were the musical poets and prophets to help the people of God find a voice in worship at this tragic time?" The truth was, in most places we visited or led worship in, there was a distinct lack of songs appropriate for this time. When it came to expressions of pain and lament, we had very little vocabulary to voice our heart cries. End quote. There are too many happy clappy songs around, they were saying, and not enough worship that processed pain. And so in "Blessed Be Your Name" they wrote these words: "Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name." That's what Revelation 14:3 is getting at. This isn't just a performance before the throne. These 144,000 had gone through great affliction in the crucible of the tribulation, and through it all they clung to the Lamb. Their song wasn't learned in a Sunday service. It wasn't picked up from a choir rehearsal or mimicked from a popular album. It was learned the hard way, through endurance, through faithfulness when it cost them everything, and through the sustaining power of Christ. Their new song came from new experiences with God. Songs that arise from tribulation are different. They carry a weight that casual choruses can't replicate. My fifth thought is a cheapness of modern worship. Today, much of worship has become cheap. We sing powerful lyrics with light hearts. People love songs like "I'll Just Say Yes" by Brian Courtney Wilson. And the words go, "I'll just say yes. You lead the way. I'm not afraid of what it means for me to say, this life you gave is not my own. I'm trusting you to hear my yes and lead me on. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours." It's a beautiful song. But how many of us have sung "Yes, Lord" on Sunday and lived a week full of no? We lift our hands and get caught up in the emotion, but as soon as God calls us to forgive someone, give sacrificially, surrender an idol, we suddenly forget the melody. The Lord hears our lips, but he sees our lives, and sometimes I think he's offended by our flippancy. What about "Bread to the Nation" by Rich Gomez? We sing, "Make us and break us as bread to the nations, willing servants are we." But some won't even consider going on an overseas impact team, won't even fast and pray for lost souls, won't even give generously to missions. We sing about surrender, but we safeguard our comfort zones. We cry out, "Jesus, take the wheel," but hold that same steering wheel in a death grip. Is worship about God, or is it about us? Is it about how the song makes us feel, or is it about letting God know how much he's worth to us? Do we think about what we sing? Can we honestly sing "Jesus, you are Lord" when we do not do what he asks us? When we sing "Yes, Lord," but our lives are full of excuses and hesitation, we turn holy words into hollow noise. This is why the Lord said in Amos 5:23, "Take away from me the noise of your songs, for I will not hear the melody of your string instruments." It's one thing to make a joyful noise to the Lord when we live in obedience and practice what we worship, but it's another thing when we sing songs, however impactful, with disconnected hearts and lives. The voice singing could be as beautiful as Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey. However, it's just noise in the ears of God. Isn't it interesting how a horrible voice in our ears could be a beautiful melody to God, and yet a voice that is a masterclass to us in control, tone, phrasing, pitch, all delivered with stunning precision, could be a horrible racket to God? Let us remember that true songs are not sung, they are offered. There is nothing we can give to God that isn't already His, whether talent or time, money or energy, all are His, but we can give the sacrifice of worship. My sixth and final thought is masculine worship. Revelation 14:4 says, "These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever He goes." This verse deserves its own video, and so for the sake of time, I won't get into all the details, but one thing we see that these worshippers of God were strictly men. Men who had been disciplined, set apart, consecrated, and more than that, they were worshippers. That alone dismantles the stereotype that worship is soft, emotional, or somehow a feminine pursuit. Much of contemporary worship today has taken on a deeply feminine tone, not just musically, but emotionally and thematically. And while women have an absolute place in worship, what we have created in many churches is a worship culture that subtly excludes men. The keys are too high for most men to sing. The lyrics are laced with romantic language, and the worship experience is often shaped to cater to emotional expression rather than strong conviction. Men walk into these environments and feel like strangers. They may stay out of duty, but they disengage inwardly. There's a genre in worship that describes this. It's "Jesus is my boyfriend" songs. It's when worship lyrics blur the line between reverence and romanticism. And when the intent may be sincere, the result is often alienating, especially for men. Songs that describe Jesus with language more suited to a love ballad than the Lord of Glory can be off-putting. Take, for example, John Mark Macmillan's "How He Loves." It has a line in it that says, quote, "So heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss, and my heart turns violently inside my chest," end quote. That line may evoke emotion for some, but to a grown man, it feels awkward. It's not the kind of language that inspires reverence, courage, sacrifice. It doesn't stir the heart of a man to rise and follow the Lamb into battle. But the men in Revelation 14, they weren't singing about being romanced. They were singing about redemption. They were marked, militant, and masculine. They followed the Lamb wherever He went, not because they felt goosebumps, but because they were loyal unto death. Their worship wasn't soppy, it was strong. It wasn't wrapped in sentimentality, it was rooted in surrender. They weren't passive men, they were overcomers, and their song was born from battle. We need to rediscover masculine worship. Worship that speaks to men. Worship that calls them to honor, sacrifice, service, and strength. Worship that doesn't just stir emotion but fuels mission. And when the words don't match how men process spiritual truth, they stop engaging. And the result? A church full of women passionately singing, while men stand with their arms crossed, waiting for it to be over. This isn't just about musical taste, it's about spiritual formation. Because when men don't worship, they don't lead. And when men don't lead, homes suffer, churches weaken, and the next generation grows up believing faith is something their mothers do while their fathers zone out. If the modern church wants to engage men again, we need to stop asking them to sing like brides and start calling them to worship like soldiers. The songs we sing matter. The tone we set matters. When every worship set is packed with soft melodies, high keys, and emotionally driven lyrics about being held or longed for, men check out. Not because they're unspiritual, but because what's being presented doesn't resonate with how men process worship, strength, or surrender. We've essentially made worship an emotional love affair with Jesus, and while intimacy with God is vital, men need more than that. They need a challenge. They need conviction. They need language that calls them to rise, to fight, to follow, to lead. It's not that men don't want to worship. It's that we've stopped speaking their language. We've turned worship into a bridal chamber where men are looking for a battlefield. Revelation 14 doesn't show men whispering sweet nothings to God. It shows men who stood undefiled, loyal to the Lamb, following him wherever he goes. That is masculine worship. That's what we have lost. That's what we need to rediscover. Before I end this recording, I want to ask you a few questions for you to ponder. When was the last time you had a new song? A fresh encounter with God that changed how you worship? Are you singing from theory or testimony? Have you allowed your worship to become empty noise? Powerful lyrics sung with a disconnected life? What area of your life is asking God for a yes that you have been withholding? If worship is a sacrifice, what are you actually offering him? As a man, have you disengaged from worship because the language or atmosphere doesn't speak to you? How can you re-engage with strength and authenticity? I want to challenge you. Don't let these questions pass by like background noise. Sit with them. Wrestle with them. Let them provoke a response in your spirit. Worship was never meant to be a soundtrack. It was meant to be sacrifice. Whether you're in a valley or in a mountaintop, God is still worthy of a song that rises from truth, not convenience. So ask yourself, what kind of song am I singing? And more importantly, what kind of life is singing it? My prayer is that God would awaken something fresh in you, that you'd not only sing again, but sing with conviction, with depth, and with fire. Let your worship be more than words. Let it be a witness, like the 144,000. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share, and please press the like button. They say it helps with the algorithm. This is Jay Namhard of Discipleship Matters. Hope to see you in the next video. Peace.